Michael, it appears that the suspended Army general, who's known as Sedeng, was shot in the head by a sniper. He was doing an interview with the New York Times and a number of other foreign journalists at the time, and he was suddenly shot. He's now in hospital in a coma. It's not really known whether he'll recover. That's really all we know at this stage. There was a lot of confusion at the site and he was simply rushed to hospital. There was someone else who was injured there also when the event occurred. Very bizarre, obviously. Sedeng had enemies on both sides, in the government camp and also in the Red Shirts camp, but the Red Shirts are sheeting this home to a government sniper.
Now, there are reports the shooting followed attempts by the Army to blockade the protesters' site in central Bangkok. What do you know about that?
Yes, well, the military had announced that they would try to block the entry points to the site. What they're simply trying to do is block access to people going in and out. The government hasn't had any success in moving the protesters from the site. As you know, they've been there for 2 months. The government's repeatedly said that it didn't want any more violence after many deaths on April the 10th when they tried to move protesters by force. So they announced that they would move in armoured personnel carriers to block the entry points. We haven't actually seen that, but what we have seen is some small units of military moving into the area, and that's led to skirmishes with the Red Shirts. We've seen a number of injuries and at least one death this evening.
The situation in Bangkok is already so tense, Zoe. What do the protesters and indeed what do the government fear might be the reaction, the result of this shooting of the renegade general?
Well, the Red Shirts are saying that that won't make them move. As I said, he did have some enemies within the Red Shirt camp, and to be frank, they don't seem particularly upset about what's happened, although I think everyone finds it quite bizarre. But that notwithstanding, the Red Shirts are still at their rally site. I'm not sure if you can hear them behind me even now, and it's well past the middle of the night here. Their rally stage is still set up. There are thousands and thousands of people down there, many of them women and children. They've been further barricading themselves in, and in fact we're barricaded inside the Red Shirts rally site. They're showing no signs of moving at this stage, and if they don't, the government's just going to have another further problem on its hands that it's tried to block them in, but it hasn't made any difference.
Yeah, just picking up on that lockdown of parts of Bangkok, you indeed have been caught up in that, haven't you?
Well, yes, we can get out if we have to, I suppose, but then we may not be able to get back in, and obviously we need to be able to have access to the protesters and to our office. It's also a very tense situation on the streets tonight. A lot of journalists returned to their offices after serious violence down at Lumpini Park between Red Shirts and protesters, which started with protesters throwing rocks, followed by soldiers shooting rubber bullets and then live rounds. And as I said, at least one person was killed and a number were injured. The situation's extremely unpredictable, and the Red Shirts, even at the barricades just an hour or so ago when we were down there, were saying that they're still expecting further military manoeuvres this evening. So what's going to unfold, we just don't know.
Very tense situation indeed. On the broader front, Zoe, has the Prime Minister given any indication that he'd accept some of the protesters' demands, dissolving Parliament and finding somebody to find accountable for the deaths of the protests earlier this month?
Look, no, I think the Prime Minister feels that he's compromised enough. He had offered to dissolve Parliament in September for an election on the 14th of November. He's now saying that the protesters took too long to make a decision on that, and he's taken that offer off the table. As for charging the Deputy Prime Minister over what happened on April the 10th, the Deputy Prime Minister did report to the Department of Special Investigation just to see what the allegations were, but on the face of it, it's said that he did what he should have done in the circumstances, or at least what he had a right to do in directing the security forces to do what they did. So no, I can't see the Prime Minister capitulating any further. The thing is, though, we're still at a stalemate position, even blocked in, even with the military moving in. The protesters, if anything, are more defiant.
Zoe Daniel in Bangkok, thank you.